The Champagne experience is like no other. It's a sensorial journey that highlights your 5 senses. From the moment you hear the cork on the bottle pop, you know something magical is about to happen. You see the wine being poured into your beautiful tulip glass, the sparkle, the bubbles, creating a beautiful colorette at the rim. It's ready for you. You pick up the glass, you take a sniff, and your olfactory senses are overwhelmed with the champagne bouquet. Everything from white flowers to minerality to beautiful baked goods. It beckons you to take a sip. You raise the glass to your lips. Boom, pop, sparkle. The champagne experience ignites fireworks on your palate. You're immediately struck by a smile and celebration because with every sip of champagne, you are sipping on the accumulation of all those celebratory moments throughout your life. Champagne is defined by its illustrious history, and in order to really appreciate the value of champagne today, we need to take a step back and discuss the incredible journey that champagne has been on to become the cultural icon that it is today. Beginning about 2,000 years ago, when the Romans first arrived to the Champagne region and brought grapevines with them. Around the year 500 is when we see the first monarch anointed in the city of Reims, which is in the heart of the Champagne region. And what do they celebrate the coronation with? The wines of Champagne, of course. And every monarch thereafter was also coronated at this beautiful cathedral in the city of Reims. And that is why Champagne is the king of wines and the wine of kings. Flash forward to the year 1668, when Dom Pierre Perignon, a Benedictine monk, became the cellar master at the Abbey of Auvillers and began experimenting with a wine with bubbles, which at the time was believed to be the devil's wine. He knew that something divine was happening, and he wanted to embrace it. Then as we move along the Champagne timeline, we must nod our hat to 1729 at the founding of the first ever established champagne house with Maison Ruinart. And then in 1743, we have Moët and Chandon founded, whose mission was to share the magic of champagne with the world and began taking the steps to make it the global phenomenon it is today. In the early 1800s, Madame Clicquot took over the reins of the House of Clicquot, starting with creating the first vintage champagne. Then she created the riddling rack, which is a device that helps us get clear champagne. And with her audacious and pioneering innovations, changed the face of champagne as we know it. 1843, when the House of Krug was founded by Joseph Krug, who had an incredible vision to craft the very best of champagne every single year, regardless of the climatic conditions. In 1936, Dom Perignon makes its debut with the 1921 vintage, becoming the very first commercially available prestige cuvée champagne. And then in 2006, Armand de Brignac releases the first Brut Gold, the trophy of champagne made for celebrating. Champagne is the epitome of sparkling wine. And while sparkling wines are made around the world, not all sparkling wines are champagne. But to give you an idea of how rare champagne is in the world of sparkling wine, out of all the wine made in the world, both still and sparkling, only 10% of that wine every year is going to be wine that's effervescent or wine with bubbles. And of the 10% of wine that's effervescent, sparkling wine, less than 1% is real, authentic champagne. Champagne, by law, must be crafted in the northeastern area of France in a region called, you guessed it, Champagne. The Champagne region is a beautiful place. Anytime I get to visit, I'm always struck by how gorgeous the vineyards are and how quaint the villages are and the history that's preserved there. As you walk along the streets or through the vineyards, you're walking on centuries of history. But the Champagne region is actually quite small. It's around 34,000 hectares. And to put that into perspective, the entire region of Champagne could fit into the city of Las Vegas. Or if you think about the 5 boroughs of New York City, Champagne could fit comfortably at least 2 times. There are very strict rules and regulations when it comes to crafting champagne. It's the most regulated wine on earth. And one of the most important rules that must be followed is the grape varietals that have to be used. Let's start with Pinot Noir. When Pinot Noir is used in a champagne blend, it brings structure. And the experience in terms of aromas and flavors will be that of red fruit. Think cherries and raspberries, as well as blueberries. It brings a beautiful backbone to the wine. Chardonnay, that's where you'll find brightness, aromatic freshness. When Chardonnay is used in champagne, think white flowers, zesty citrus. It brings that ethereal quality to the wine. And then finally, we have Meunier. Meunier is like biting into a ripe summer peach or a juicy pear. It brings this delicious roundness to the wine. In Champagne, the struggle is real. The unique list of hurdles that every Champagne winemaker must overcome in pursuit of the perfect bottle of bubbly is extensive. Let's start with the weather. The weather is unpredictable. The Champagne region has 4 distinct seasons, and each one of them presents its own unique set of challenges. You have scorching hot summers, you have frosty, frigid winters. Fall, not much better, although it's probably the best time to visit the region. And then in the spring, it's anybody's guess what's going to happen. The soils in Champagne are very difficult to work with because most of the region's soils are made of chalk. Chalk like you write on a chalkboard. So imagine trying to plant a vine in chalk. It's pretty difficult. And on top of all of that, champagne making is a painstaking process. Harvesting is incredibly difficult and arduous. Every bunch of grapes must be handpicked, and it requires a lot of people to do this. To give you an idea of the sheer magnitude of hand harvesting grapes, Moët and Chandon hires 4,500 harvesters every year to gingerly and delicately cut the bunches of grapes off the vine and quickly bring it to the presses because time is of the essence. What would champagne be without the bubbles? Champagne naturally becomes effervescent inside each individual bottle through a process we call the secondary fermentation. It's a beautiful metamorphosis. It's like a caterpillar becoming a butterfly. And that process takes lots of time. We need to honor all of the hardship, craftsmanship, and time that goes into each and every bottle of champagne by doing right by it. Whether it is how we store it, how we serve it, or how we enjoy it. Champagne is simply about pleasure, and whatever type of glass you want to serve it in is your choice. At Moët Hennessy, we recommend the white wine glass for the perfect champagne experience. To easily and effectively open a bottle of champagne, there are 5 steps you need to follow. 1. Remove the foil from the neck of the chilled bottle. 2. While keeping a hand on the cork, carefully unscrew the cage by pulling out and turning the key 6 times counterclockwise. Then loosen the cage from the lip of the bottle. Now don't remove the cage. 3. Holding the bottle at a 45-degree angle, keep one hand around the cage and cork and slowly turn the bottle with your other hand. Now remember, don't point the bottle at other people or things of value. 4. Remember that the pressure inside of the bottle is 90 pounds of pressure per square inch. That's 3 times that of a car tire. This pressure will push the cork out into your hand. 5. Pop and enjoy. When serving champagne, most houses recommend a range between 50 degrees and 60 degrees Fahrenheit. For vintage or prestige cuvée champagnes, it's recommended to serve it closer to 55 degrees as these wines will benefit from being a bit warmer than other wines. And remember, if the wine is too cold, the aroma and flavors will be muted. Champagne is the ultimate food pairing wine, so don't just relegate it to the beginning or the end of your meal. Incorporate it through all the courses for a delightful experience. From appetizers like oysters or a salad to main courses like a hamburger with fries, steak, or even pizza. Champagne is perfect with all of these savory and salty options. The only rule with brut champagne is don't pair it with anything sweet. If you are serving a sweeter dessert, opt for a sweeter style of champagne, like a demi-sec or a doux. This all comes down to why champagne is worth it. Worth the price, worth the trust, and worth turning every moment into a moment worth celebrating.